sexy on Secular Sexuality.
Hello, and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the ACA show that is most likely to run out of lotion. I'm Nate Smith. My co-host tonight is the incomparable Rudy B. Welcome, Rudy.
Hello.
I'm so excited that Christy finally decided to share me with someone else, and you get the rare pleasure of being my first. So how does that feel?
So honored.
Awesome. Our guest tonight is Lianna Walden. Say hello, Lianna.
Hello, hello, hello. Nice to be here.
All right, so tonight we are opting for the extended warranty on our sex lives. So if you'd like to talk to us tonight, call the show at 512-991-9242. Or if you want to connect online, go to tiny.cc/callsex because the show is starting right now.
Awesome. So this is going to be a little bit of different content than our viewers are used to. So I wanted to preface this conversation by just saying that we may disagree, Lianna, when it comes to some claims of a spiritual nature. But I'm hoping that we can have a friendly, productive conversation, and Rudy, myself, and our audience can learn something today.
Excellent.
So, so you are a sex coach. Most of what I know about sexual healing comes from a Marvin Gaye song. So, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is you do? Rudy's loving these jokes, I can tell.
Love is one word for it.
Marvin Gaye. Good music. Good music. I am a sexual energy activator and sex and relationship coach, relationship specialist, intimacy expert. I do all of those things, work around in the relationship, sexuality, and help singles and couples who are adventurous people who want to create extraordinary, intimate, and sexual lives. So there's a lot of components within that I work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Human sexuality is a pretty broad topic, and I'm all for breaking out of what we used to think was normal and having a little bit more fun. What kind of led you to wanting to do this kind of work?
Well, I was a filmmaker before I started becoming a sex coach. And it kind of happened in an organic way where I was working on a film where it was dealing with sexuality. I was also promoting, I was pitching a show that was about a sex coach who was living in Vancouver. And I was just like amazed by this job. Like, somebody is a sex coach. Like, what do they do? What is this all about? And so while I was pitching the show, I was learning from her, and I was kind of also I had been feeling like I wanted to change the kind of career that I was in at that moment. And I just started to fall in love with the kind of work she was doing. And there were also other things happening in my life that were very directly connected to my own sexuality. For example, my one of the biggest parts was my husband at that time, who we sort of hit the 12-13 year mark. He came out as bisexual to me. So while I was pitching the show, he comes out as bisexual. I'm working on another film that's got to do with sexuality. And I'm like, okay, there's something going on here that I want to explore more about and learn more about. And she was teaching me a lot at the time. But with him coming out as bisexual, we had to make a big shift in our relationship because I didn't want to leave him. I loved him very, very much. And he wanted to do something different. And I thought, well, 13 years, we've sort of done everything we can do together, and we were both already feeling like there was some necessity for change, but I didn't know what that was. And then when he came out, it was like, okay, okay, this is shocking for me, but at the same time, this was a relief. Now we can actually make some kind of choice and decision to move forward in our lives in a different way. And so I said, okay, you know what? Let's open the relationship and let's see where that takes us. We had no idea what that meant, open the relationship, because
Hmm.
at that time there wasn't a huge amount of information. We didn't we just felt like we needed to do something else, and I didn't want to say to him, don't ever explore that part of you. I don't want anything to do with that. I'm leaving. I just thought, okay, well, let's let's do something here. Let's make a change in our lives. And so with all of these things happening in my life, personally as well as professionally, I started to shift into learning and exploring and experimenting and trying to find out what kind of information was out there, what could help us, what is helping people in this kind of predicament. And I found very little except extremely negative information about, he's an asshole for what he's doing. You should leave somebody who's bisexual. It still is a tough place for a man to come out as bisexual. There's just a lot of stigma around that. So we launched together into. He wrote a book about our lives, put on a play. We toured around North America and showed the play and did talks and had sharings with people, and people were just like loving the opportunity to finally be able to have a forum that they could express what was happening to them and what they were feeling. Um, so yeah, it just kind of unwound like that, and I started getting calls from women. Hey, my husband's bisexual. What do I do? Like, okay. And I started talking to them and I realized, hey, I could do this. I could coach people now. I've gone through this. It's been like a couple,
Yeah.
2-3 years already. And we were open, our relationship had opened, and we had like sort of made our way through all of the trials and tribulations to what that meant. And now I started to help other people. So that's kind of how it started.
That is such a cool story.
Yeah, as a polyamorous person who is bisexual, who is dating another person who is also bisexual, and him coming out about that later on in our relationship, that's a familiar experience. I mean, it wasn't like, oh no, to me. I was just like, that's nice. I'm glad you feel comfortable around me. But we also hadn't been in a long-term relationship for very long when that happened. So you said that was like at the 12-year mark or something into your relationship. That's definitely a big change.
Yeah, it was around the 12-year mark. And he had told me before we were married that there was a little bit of exploration going on. His father was gay. He found out when he was very young. And so he was very confused as an adolescent what his sexual orientation was and what he felt. And so he was experimenting a little bit. But then we met and we fell in love, and he's like, okay, this is what I want. I want to be with this woman and da 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 da. But, you know, and this is what I think we're going to talk a little bit about this more later. But, when you're in a relationship, a long-term relationship, after a while, your desires change. You change. You need to create change. And he started to feel this desire coming back, and he needed somewhere to express it, and it tore him up inside to tell me. He was really scared. He actually drove me to the top of a mountain late at night to tell me, because he was afraid I was going to run away or something.
I was going to say that's so romantic, but
Yeah, different motivations, but
Yeah.
still sweet.
Yeah. I certainly couldn't run out in the dark in the middle of a mountain, but yeah. So I talk a lot about that, how it's so important to be able to connect to your desires and then allow your desires to admit to them yourself, and then be able to express them in some way, in a safe manner, or in a place that's safe for you, so that you can let that out of your body and you can keep living your life.
That is an amazing story. So you just kind of grew into this. It was like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. And then you were like, yeah, maybe I'll go to medical school. Get into that. So,
Yeah.
what is it about your approach that makes you different from other couples coaches or other counselors?
Well, I think first of all, it's my beginning, how I started in becoming in getting interested within this whole, I call it a dimension, okay, the sexual dimension. So because when I we were a couple that were exploratory with each other, but when I found he was bisexual and we opened our relationship, suddenly it was just like, what? There's like huge door open, and then and then okay, what direction do we go? What do we do? And we just said, let's just take our steps and go and see what this world is all about. And it just keeps opening and opening and opening, unraveling. As you know, you have had all sorts of people on your show. You can, it just opens and there's just more. And so I really dove into the experimentation of it, and then so I have that a really deep background in that, and then I went to find anybody that was teaching that really caught my attention around things that were around energy, around sexual energy, around connection, relationships, who's doing what. So I have a diverse um, amount of experience mixed with education, I guess. And I was very involved with Tantra for a while as well, because I'm like, what is this Tantra? Like, what are they doing? Let me see what this is about. What is this BDSM? What's going on here? What are kinks all about? Okay, what are, like that. So I have a really diverse background, and so when I'm when I'm with people, I can really feel like what's going on with them, like what I can tap into. Okay, like I see there's that desire down in that person there that they're really holding on to, because I've been around people that have these desires that are expressing them or holding them and then expressing them. So I come with just really a really big background of knowledge and experience.
That's fascinating. I read you spent some time in Japan. Did you manage to find a teacher there, or?
Well, I was in Japan before all this happened.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I lived in Japan. That was my first life. We're gonna talk about past life. That was my past life.
Oh, right. Okay, okay. Yes,
Like,
my fiance's got a bit of a thing for Japanese culture, so.
right. Yeah. I had my whole adolescence into my 20s was connected with Japan. And uh, I was interested in sexuality, but not until I was into my 30s did I really open to exploring into the sexual dimension.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say, and I was reading your website in preparation for this episode, and your approach definitely includes a spiritual element. A lot of that. What does this approach offer for, like, say, someone like myself who is a skeptic, or say for our audience, some folks who are more empirically minded and don't necessarily subscribe to supernatural claims?
Well, I deal with each individual very differently. I mean, I have that was a whole exploration for myself as well around the spiritual. My mother's an atheist, and I grew up with these very strong atheist beliefs. I wasn't really,
Hmm.
she didn't preach it a lot, but she sort of did later on, as we were as I was sort of, I guess, more university level. As we were younger, she was kind of disassociating herself from the church and just really looking for something else that she could put her feet into. And she eventually said, okay, this is what I want to be and what I want to do. So
Hmm.
on the other hand, I just felt more interested in diving into looking into a different area, and it would became sort of more of the spiritual aspect of things. I came in as a skeptic
Hmm.
because of my background with my parents, but I just went in with open eyes and said, okay, let's just see what happens. Let me experiment. Let me try things out. Let me do some reading. Let me see what feels good. And things started happening to me. Experiences started opening. I just started meeting all sorts of really cool, interesting people that I really connected with, and I really, really I have some pretty amazing experiences. So I take all of the learnings that I have, things like out of body experiences and dream analysis and working in dimensions of other consciousness, and I will use that with people that are open to it. If you're not open to it, it's not going to really help you in any way. I mean, I have the energy with that, but I work with what each person needs and requires and where they come from.
I find that interesting that you say that, because I've heard people in similar sort of fields of work to you basically say that, if you're not open to it, it's not going to help you, but then kind of just insists that people need to go through with it anyway, that they have to open themselves up to those things in order to experience more or whatever. But you feel like, at least in your approach, that you can still you still have something to offer to people who aren't necessarily into the spiritual aspects of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely non-judgmental about where people come from and what they believe. I mean, I will go into beliefs around sex and sexuality. That to me is more important. Like, where are your beliefs coming from? What is blocking you from being able to express yourself really as a sexual being? What's blocking you from being able to express yourself with your partner? And those are the kind of things that I find I work on more. You have to be a person that wants to explore into the spiritual, and that is a whole area of sexuality that exists. And but if you're not interested in that, there's so much more. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much more. So
Yeah, sex is not a limited field by any
no,
means.
no, not at all. And I'm not closed down to any of it. I'm open more than anything else. I'm open to all of it. I'm really interested in where each where the different aspects are, where the different doors are that I can open and look into and say, hey, what's going on there? What are these people doing? What do they believe?
That's really interesting.
So could a skeptic like myself be induced to have an out of body experience, or does it just not happen to me because I don't think because I'm not willing to participate? How does that work?
Well, you can't really induce someone to have an out of body experience. There are out of body experiences that can happen with you without you doing anything at all. So that you have an experience, like maybe you have a flying dream and you're conscious and you're flying, and you wake up, you're like, what the hell was that? Like, okay, but you've never tried to do anything, you don't even know what it's about. And so that could be an out of body experience. Now you can decide if you want to believe that that was something that was actually you were in another consciousness experiencing something else. You can decide whether you want to
Hmm.
believe that or not. That's up to you. If you, like me, I didn't have that experience, I decided, hey, what is this out of body? I connected with a guy named Rick Stack, who is directly connected to Seth, which is a being that was channeled from another consciousness. And I started reading, and I'm like, what is this? I want to find out about this. And Rick Stack was talking about out of body experiences. I went to LA and did a whole workshop with him and just learned about it. Then I just started reading, and I want to learn how to do this. And there are books of people who've written books who've spent like 20 years experimenting and breaking down what you need to do and what you need to feel in order to have this out of body experience. So I was like, okay, let me see. What is this all about? I want to see what this, can I do it? Why not? It doesn't take much energy to do it. There's just certain things that you have to say to yourself and certain feelings that you sort of watch for and see if they come about. So I did it. It happened, and then they started to happen in greater numbers. And now I use out of body experiences to give me information to help me move along in this reality, and it's just part of who I am.
Hmm. I think we're gonna get a little bit more into out of body experiences in the second segment, but that is fascinating. I kind of want to know more about Seth, but I guess I'd have to talk to Rick about that.
Well, you can talk to me about Seth too. Rick Stack is yeah, Rick Stack. Rick
Rick
Stack is the guy.
Stack,
Rick
interesting.
Stack. He's the guy who's promoting all of the Seth material right now because yeah.
So are we talking like, we're not talking like astral projection, we're talking more of like being in a meditative, thoughtful state? It sounds like, or
You mean
are
for
we
out of-
talking
Are you talking about out of body? What are you talking about?
out of body? Are we talking like your soul is actually leaving your body and going to another non-physical place?
We're talking about your body is completely asleep, completely out, and you are, yes, your soul, your energy. I kind of like to call it your energetic being is
Mhm.
going to a completely different dimension where you are conscious, where you feel conscious. You're just like, what? Where where am I? Okay, I'm not in my own reality. I'm in a different reality. Okay, interesting. And then you can start to manipulate through that because it's very emotion based as opposed to the way we are very physically based, right? We move in a linear manner. Whereas if some of these other dimensions, it's just you think something and then you're moving and you're going into places. It's not physical.
I would like to sort of ask how you, because I'm sure you've explored things like meditation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I guess my question is, how do you differentiate what you would describe as an out of body experience in a different dimension than just being like in a very specific trance like headspace? Because I've heard people describe somewhat similar experiences relating to drugs or relating to uh, uh, mental states that they either induced themselves or somebody helped them to learn to induce that. I guess I'm wondering how you would differentiate that.
Well, you can. I mean, I know the difference. I meditate. I've meditated for years, and I know the state that I can get into when I'm meditating. And my physical body is alert. It's alert because you're not lying down sleeping. You're not completely out, right? You're not physically out. You're alert. You're kind of in a different trance state. You might go into you feel like you're floating, you're going into other places, you might feel like you're experiencing different things. The out of body on the other hand is for me and it's can be slightly different for other people, but I am completely physically not moving. I'm out completely and my entire, energetic being is gone somewhere else and I'm moving through a completely different environment. I was trying for a very long time to try and wake up and see my own body lying on the bed because I know there's a lot of people who have had that particular experience, and I was trying to do it in a conscious manner. I was able to like actually sit up from my body, and then I got really scared to like turn around and look at my body. I was like, oh my god, that's gonna be too weird.
When you said
So,
that actually reminded me of, and I know that this is possibly totally unrelated, but I feel like I've experienced something very similar, but it wasn't a positive experience. It was a very negative, disassociative experience of feeling like I was not in my body. But I would say I felt very similar. Like there were times when I felt like I was watching myself do things, or that I was uh just kind of like if I wanted to move physically, I could think about it, but I felt like I couldn't do it.
yeah, yeah. So you're sort of in early stages of out of body. Yeah, absolutely. And
Well,
you
for
know,
me, that was a symptom of a depressive episode. Well, multiple depressive episodes. So I guess that even though the experiences are very similar, I certainly wouldn't say that I was trying to do that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
that it was in any way pleasant.
Most people are not trying to do it. It's. But I think that this is part of our makeup. That these kinds of things can happen organically when they need to happen. You can decide what they are to you. For me, I was just very excited to learn to actually do it and see if it was possible. And I found that it was. And so like, oh, okay, that's cool. Let's incorporate this and see what happens. And I've had some amazing out of body experiences that have one that still is rocking my life like to this day.
Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I can if you want me to.
Sure. Yeah, sure, absolutely. I wanna hear it.
Okay. Um, it was it was around the time close to before I was separating with my husband. I went. I was on a train, and the train was moving. The train stopped. I got out of the train, and suddenly the train left, and I realized I'd left everything of mine on the train. Everything. I didn't have my phone. I didn't have my money. I didn't have anything. I was like, oh my god, I'm on. And then I realized, okay, I'm not even in my own reality here. Where am I? Where am I going? So then I turned around. I started walking into this town, and people started coming up behind me and following me, like kind of wild people, excited people. And they were just all like laughing and moving around, and they were sort of like leading me out to this field that was just past this town. We went out to the field, and then we suddenly there was this burst up in the sky, and everybody's looking up, and there's like, oh my god, it's a nuclear explosion. I'm like, and I look up like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? And I look up like this, and suddenly I just like, I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. Like I could see, like you could see it was actually a nuclear bomb going off above our heads. And this voice came in and said, you are going into a new dimension. Take in the energy. Take in the energy, Lianna. You are going into a new dimension. This is where you need to go, like this. I was like I was just completely shocked. And then suddenly I said, okay. And I lifted my arms up because I didn't know what to do. And suddenly this huge energy that just came pouring into my body, like just massive amount of energy. And I started shaking. And then I woke up and I was lying in my bed, just shaking and shaking. And I was like, didn't want to open my eyes. I was so freaking terrified. I didn't know, like, what the hell happened. And eventually I slowed down and calmed down. And then I opened my eyes. And I was back in my bed. And yeah, I was like, what just happened? And it's been since that moment, since that experience, my life has just been changing and shifting. And now, like, I moved to Brazil. My relationship ended, and it hadn't been decided yet, but it ended, that one relationship. I ended up going to Brazil. Now here I'm living in Brazil. And it's just like, I still feel this
Hmm.
energy inside of me. Yeah. It's really bizarre.
How do you know that that just wasn't like a really intense dream? Because, I've had dreams that I woke up from feeling shaken in some way, you're feeling changed, and, most of the time you forget your dreams right away, but there are some that felt profound enough or strong enough or intense enough, they stuck with me afterwards, and the emotions associated with what happened in the dream stuck with me afterwards. So I guess I'm wondering how you are distinguishing that from just a very intense dream.
Well, I don't think dreams are just nothing. Like, I believe dreams are actually you into another consciousness. You're just not necessarily conscious in the dreams. An out of body is when you're actually conscious in the dream.
Like a lucid dream?
Lucid is you're not conscious either. You're semi-conscious. Like, you kind of realize oh, maybe I'm in a dream. I don't know, like it. But when you're in and out of body, you are conscious, like you are right now, sitting here in this show. You are so conscious. So that's how I know it's an out of body. And that, that I call it out of body. That's what I learned through what I experienced, throughout my exploration, through my experimentation. And that event happened as if any other event happened in my life.
Yeah, I have no doubt that you experienced that, and that's that felt very real to you. But it's just it seems odd that you could wake up from being conscious. Like it's because in your story you woke up in bed and you were panicked, and then but then your claim is that you were conscious during the dream.
Yeah. Well, I was conscious because I was me and conscious in a different energetic dimension. So my body was sleeping. My body was there, but you don't actually, you don't leave your body to never return to your body. Your body, you can return to your body. Your body is still like, I'm still on this physical experience. So it's just that I'm able to be conscious, not just here, but in other dimensions as well.
As much as I think that we should definitely get back to this topic, but we were supposed to start taking calls like 10 minutes ago, and we just got super sucked into this conversation.
This is a cool conversation. That is, I mean, that would be a neat trip.
Don't get me wrong. I'm fine with that.
You
I'm
guys
just
are
like,
doing the
these
show.
people are kind of waiting to talk to us.
All right.
But yeah, I definitely want to return to the subject and everything when we get back to that. But let's see. Alice, she, her from Sweden, has been on the line the longest, and she would like to ask us about the morality of the moral acceptability of having children, which I think is an interesting question. I guess I'd have to let you phrase it, Alice, because I'm not 100% sure what you're asking.
Yes. Hi. So it's not the easiest to explain. I'd say that it's a moral and philosophical conundrum more than anything else. And it's this idea that some people are come into this world with no real ability to not really like to make a choice for like or there's no way to stop them having a very depressing experience with their life.
Like they're born into bad circumstances.
Yeah. Yes. And my idea there is like no one can really control it. A parent can't control it necessarily, especially if it's like some physical trait that they're born with or similar. And then my conundrum has become this like, if we cannot control this, is it moral to, in a sense, force someone into existence that they did not, like, they cannot have wished for it ahead of time because it didn't exist ahead of time, but they came to be as a result of someone else's actions, and they had no say in, like, how their existence is.
Yeah.
Sorry if that is vague.
No, that makes perfect sense, Alice. And maybe I have a weird take on this, but I feel like it's always selfish to have kids because they can't say whether or not they want to exist, even if you have a great lot in life and you think that you're going to be able to bring them up well. Some bad thing is going to happen to them at some point. So it's like you are necessarily bringing someone into a world of at least some suffering. But at the same time, like, can you say it's wrong? I don't know if I would go so far as to say that it's wrong, even if you can't necessarily give them a good life. I mean, if you are being, like, neglectfully irresponsible to the point where you are having children left and right that you have no means of caring for, and the options and the opportunities to not be having kids are all there, I guess that's like... I guess that's kind of ethically iffy, but I guess that it matters more to me what you do with your kids once you've had them than the moral conundrum of whether or not you should have them, because even people in bad circumstances could still end up being good parents who do their best to give their kids good lives.
Yeah, no, I can see where that is. It's just this thing that has absorbed my mind more or less, as like I basically read about this topic. I started to believe that it is morally unjust to do it. Like, that doesn't mean that it shouldn't happen anyways, but it's like I just couldn't get over the belief that it was morally unjust. but it's something I haven't been able to like have any conviction over, and it's something I'm really just like struggled thinking about.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anybody who's ever had a teenager has probably heard that objection at one point or another, usually punctuated by a slammed door. But let me ask you, Alice, would you rather be alive or not ever have existed? What would be the preferable state for you?
So, okay, if I had never existed, then
But you do.
there would.
But you do. So I'm asking
Yeah,
the person who
exactly.
exists.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's why I think it's such a moral like why it's so difficult, because someone who doesn't exist, you don't really have to account for them. Like, they cannot suffer because they never exist to have suffered. But once you start existing, you have this instinct to survive, which
Absolutely.
like even people who try to kill them, or I don't know if maybe that's a bit too heavy of a topic.
No, that's fine. Again, like, we can't really gauge the experience of those who don't exist or never existed. The only thing that we can go on when we're trying to arrive at a position when it comes to a moral choice is we have to go by the experiences of those around us, right, and decide what's best. So again, I would ask you, what would your preferred state be? I'm guessing you would rather be alive than dead, right?
Rather be alive than dead. But when it comes to alive rather than not having existed, meaning that none of the expectations and so forth about having existed, such as like relationships with others and
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'll let Lianna weigh in on this, but I want to leave you with a quote from a famous atheist who said, "We are going to die, and that makes us the lucky ones. Most people are never going to die because they're never going to be born. The potential people who could have been here in my place, but who will in fact never see the light of day, outnumber the sand grains of Arabia. Certainly those unborn ghosts include greater poets than Keats, scientists greater than Newton. We know this because the possible people allowed by our DNA so massively exceeds the set of actual people. In the teeth of these stupefying odds, it is extraordinary that you and I, in all of our ordinariness, are here." Basically, we're lucky to be alive. What do you think, Lianna?
I think we are all here for a reason. That we all are here for a journey that's important for each of us. And sometimes you can't know at early stages what that is, or maybe even later stages what that is, or maybe you never really know even your entire life, but you are part of a collective of energetic beings, and you are here, and you are important, and you are needed and wanted
Yeah,
and loved.
I'm not sure that I would agree with having a specific purpose in being here, but I will say readily that I think that in my life I've affected more people for the better than I have for the worse. And, you know, if I had a choice of having existed or not existed, knowing now that I probably spent my life affecting more people positively, I would have preferred to exist. You know, you you existing in this world, despite having not made the choice to do it, is at least affecting some other people for the better. You've the other people that also didn't choose to be here have had their lives enriched by you.
Exactly. Exactly. And you may only affect one person, and that might be all that you're here for. Or you might
Yeah.
affect millions of people, but you are still, I believe, like each individual. I work with a lot of people that live on the streets in Rio de Janeiro. We have an NGO here that feed people on the streets, and we talk to a lot of homeless people and people that are drug addicts and alcoholics, and every single person, we want to make sure that they understand that they're loved and that they're worthy of their existence is worthy.
Mm.
As difficult as your time might be, it will change. Things do change. Things do change. They go through cycles. So cycles are different for different people. Sometimes it can be a longer cycle, sometimes a shorter cycle, and so yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I am. Yeah,
It sounds like you're still
I'm-
struggling with that a little bit, Alice.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those moral quandaries that isn't really super easy to just give a definitive answer on. You know, this is just three people's opinions. That doesn't negate any of the philosophy or research that you've done on the topic. This is just three random people giving their two
Yeah.
cents.
Yeah. No, I just, it's something I've wanted to really discuss with people because it's like, it's a controversial topic. Like, let's say that we could pin down that it was morally unjust to do so. Like, that would have very severe implications for our society.
Well, somebody would have to make that decision, morally unjust, and who's going to do that?
Right. I don't think that collectively as a species that we would all be like on board with that. Like I can't imagine us as a whole unit of mankind getting to the point where we'd be like, nah, procreating is probably bad. None of us are going to do it anymore. Like we'd all have to decide that together to make it stop happening, and that's probably never going to happen.
Yeah. But it's because of that, it becomes this like to discuss it with some people, it can become like this entire mental block. I feel. But anyways, thank you for having me. It was really nice hearing about you, Lianna. I hope I pronounced it right. With the opening up a relationship, it's just really cool to hear. So thank you for that, and maybe I'll call in about other things another time.
All right.
Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, that was kind of heavy to get into right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure if she was talking, like, it almost seemed like at first she was wanting to get into natalism and the problem of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And then we kind of got away from that a little bit.
We actually have a few more callers on the line, so let's take Kelly from Michigan, and he has some questions for Lianna. Kelly, you are on with Rudy, Nate, and Lianna.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Awesome.
Hi, I had a few questions. I've been listening to the things you've been saying, and there was a few things I was a bit confused about. Originally, I wanted to ask if you can define energy for me in the way that you're using it, because I'm a bit of a scientist, and it doesn't seem like we use the word in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ooh, what's your scientific field? I'm curious.
I'm a geologist.
Ooh, rocks rock. Sorry.
And you're making fun of me for my jokes.
Sorry. All right.
I like rocks, and rocks have fabulous energy.
Oh, well, that plays right in. There we go.
Perfect. What kind of energy do rocks have?
Well,
Yeah,
so
explain that to me.
well, the kind of energy I'm talking about is vibrational. So, in a rock, for
I've never had a rock vibrate.
well, they do. I mean, everything has a vibrational energy. They're all made up of cells, and we all have this. I'm not a scientist, okay, but I feel this vibrational, energetic movement that exists. And a rock is just very, 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 very dense. But there is this, if you touch a rock, some rocks have heat, they hold on to the heat, and there's like more of a kind of an energetic feel that happens around them. A colder rock has a different kind of a feel. I'm not going to get into rocks. Exactly. I do love rocks, and I worked with rocks.
I wanted to get into the energy part, right?
The energy part. So,
yeah, I didn't want to get.
So the energy I'm talking about
Like
again.
You said, the rock. Well, you said the rocks had a vibrational energy, so I was wondering if you could define that vibrational energy, what you mean by that concept, because it seems like it's kind of open-ended.
Well, it's like the movement of the. It's a movement. It's a movement, let's say. So it's the movement of all parts of our being, all parts of everything. Everything is in constant shifting and moving and changing, right? So when we talk about it, I'm going to talk about it sexually because that's my main field. If you are talking about sexual energy, and let's say if two people are there's that connection that happens and two people are really feeling the connection between each other. There's an energy that is between them that is vibrational, and it gets on a higher frequency when you're really attracted to somebody.
You're using more. You're not I guess you're not really defining or explaining to me what you mean by that. You're just kind of using the word in other ways. So you know what I mean?
We're hearing energy, we're hearing vibration, we're hearing movement. But I mean, are you talking about like on a molecular level? Are you talking about something a little bit more abstract?
No, I'm talking about on a molecular level. I'm talking about having consciousness and energy on a molecular level. So
how do you have consciousness on a molecular level? How does that work?
It works because each molecule has the ability to make there's not the full scope of choice that exists, but there's a certain amount of choice of consciousness that exists within each molecule that exists within our bodies. And so together these molecules work. I guess it's hard. I guess I don't have the best definition, and that's a really good question. When I'm going to create a really good definition for this, I can explain what it is I feel, what it is that I work with people around energy, what it is that what the energy actually does and how it moves and how it changes. But it's a good question to have an actual. I don't have a definition that I can just give you that's really clear.
Well, I could step in for a quick second here and say that energy is defined as the capacity for something to do work. It's measured in joules. So that's what energy is. Mm-hmm. I feel like you're using energy to mean something else. So if you could pick another word other than energy, Lianna, what word would you use other than energy? Maybe that'll help us answer Kelley's question.
Thanks, Nate.
I'm here for you, buddy.
Let me see. I could use vibration. Because there is change within the vibration when different, let's say, emotional things are taking place. The energy. I thought energy is like is the movement of emotion, and it's a vibrational movement. It's an actual feeling of movement that
So you're talking about an emotion, not really energy, but an emotional thing? I'm confused. Well, I'm sorry. I'm really confused.
Okay, that's good. It's good. Good question, because it's good to be able to work on the definition of this and also to dive deeper into that. But I look at it as emotions, as energy, because they fuel what you do, how you move, how your life is created, how things happen in your life, how you feel, how your body responds. If you have emotions that are very dark, are very highly depressive and heavy, then you you can end up having all sorts of physical problems take place. You can have, stress. The emotion of very highly stressful kind of situations can cause
So
physical
stress is
Can I, yeah,
ailments.
can I ask, sorry, Kelly, maybe we're gonna ask the same question, I don't know, but I guess that when you're talking about vibrations and emotions, like I think that it's something that we can all acknowledge, that your mental and emotional state can definitely have physical effects on your body, but my understanding of that is a lot more medical, and maybe that's kind of cold sounding, but there's certain hormones that are released in your brain when you're thinking this and feeling that, and different chemical reactions within the body. I guess my question is, what does any of that have to do with a vibration? Like, are
So you mean
and is that,
physiological? Okay, so you're saying
yeah, and
physiological. Okay.
yeah, so what does that have to do with vibrations, with energy, and is that something that is physically detectable?
Took the words right out of my mouth, Rudy.
mine too. Thank you.
Oh, okay, so we were all on
Yes.
the same page.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Yes.
it's physically detectable. You can feel it. I mean, can you feel when you are attracted to somebody?
Well, yeah,
is
but
that?
my
What is that
understanding
then?
of that has always been basically chemical reactions that are happening in my brain and in my body. There's neurons firing, and it gives me jitters. It makes my face flush. And it's like I know it's making stuff
Yeah, and
happen, but
it's
I have a
physiological.
physiological explanation for those responses.
Yes, and we have physiological reactions, and the beginning can be a physiological kind of movement, but there's more than just that, because then there's sort of this I want to say vibration again, this vibrational energetics that moves from your body and connects with other, another body or another being, let's say. You can feel their energy. You can feel the heat coming off their body. You can.
Well, I get that, because it's different. It's definitely different when it's coming from another person, because obviously you're not physiologically feeling whatever they are physiologically, experiencing. But I also think that because the human range of emotional and physical responses to emotional situations are very similar and calculable, that maybe it's, I don't know. To me, it seems like it's more easily explained by, we can subconsciously, without thinking about it, sort of detect very nuanced, subtle changes in responses in other people, just because we've been around people long enough to read body language without having to think about it.
Yes, you can, but many people cannot. They can't read the subtleties, can't feel the subtleties coming off of another person's body. Um, I think you have to be very in tune. You have to be very in tune with your own body and understand how your body is moving and is affected by different things, different feelings that you have, and your state of your emotional state, your vibrational state can have an effect on everybody around you, right?
I mean, I know that
Yeah.
my emotional state certainly can.
If
I guess
somebody
I don't know if because
what if
I've been
somebody
in
walks in?
situations where. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. Sorry,
if
go ahead.
somebody if somebody walks in and they're in a state of anger or aggressiveness, then you'll feel not just that person is in that state, but you will feel like there is like this massive energy that has come in. Do you feel that ever? Or an
Oh,
energy?
I
absolutely, but that's still physiological, right? Like we're still reading that
It
person's
is.
body language, and it's inducing a chemical response in our brains, which makes us feel a certain way.
yeah,
It's still absolute.
it certainly makes me tense up, when there's somebody in the room that is clearly pissed off, but I don't know if they're just affecting me by existing as an angry person so much as it's a social response to being in a room with an angry person, and I'm not angry and I don't know why they're angry. So that would naturally cause me to be tense. And I guess I see that more as response to the social human nature. I guess I don't see where this sort of more abstract vibration energy concept fits. Well, not where it fits in, but where it needs to fit in to explain that phenomena, I guess.
Well, I think because to me it's much more than the physical, it's much more than just the physical that's taking place. Of course, the physical is responding and activating in whatever is taking place. And if you're if somebody walks in and then they're big and aggressive, and maybe you don't even see them, but you might feel them. You might feel that something has walked in, and you might, and that feeling is the vibrational, energetic vibration that comes from their body of what they're feeling. It might be somebody that it could be a variety of different kinds of things that come into a room, into a scenario where the energetic of that person is actually felt by other people.
How can you measure those vibrations you're talking about?
I don't know. That's a good question.
That's because I don't know that they even exist, and if I'm having a hard time wrapping my idea around this vibrational energy, because I've never felt a vibration off of somebody when they walked into the room, even though I could tell that they were pissed off or had some other strong emotion at the time they came in. But I've never actually felt a vibrational energy off of them. So I'm a little confused.
Just because you haven't felt it doesn't mean it doesn't exist, first of all. Secondly, what if it was a beautiful woman that walked in the room? It could be a completely different scenario. Somebody who's just radiating some kind of gorgeous love energy, and you've seen people like this before, and you just
use the word energy again to define energy. You keep using the word to define itself, and I mean that's one of the problems I'm having that we're here.
Well, it's a very good point, and I'm going to work at that so that I can find a great way of explaining this so that it's very clear, because I know what I am feeling. I know what my own experimentation around this whole field of vibrational energy, let's say, because that's the only word I have at the moment to use. Yeah, I'll find a way to explain it better. And I don't know about the measurement of it, except that there's definitely got to be people that are measuring this.
Well, thank you for the call, Kelley. We are going to have to move on because, boy, oh boy, the time is slipping by.
Wow.
But thank you.
Wow,
Yeah, I know.
we've
I just
gone
looked at
for
the
an
clock
hour
and I was
already?
like, oh
my
man, it's
goodness.
been an hour. This is an hour and a half show. Oh my.
We have barely talked about sex at all.
I know.
I know we haven't even got to sex. Okay. We'll get there, I promise.
But
that's my specialty.
Thank you so much for your call, Kelley.
All right, bye-bye.
Kelly.
Bye.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Kelley. Wow.
Yeah, we could go off on some tangents for a while.
Yeah, we could be here all night, but let's maybe talk to Lianna about some of her approaches with sex coaching.
As the old proverb goes, let's talk about sex, baby.
Let's talk about a good thing. Can we cue up the beat? No, we'll get copyright strike. We can't have that. Okay,
what are we talking about sex? What is it that we want to talk about?
What I want to ask you about next is in your writings on your website, there's a lot of stuff on mindfulness and a meditative approach, which I think, whether you believe in the spiritual or not, has benefits for everybody. Like Sam Harris is a huge proponent of mindfulness and meditation, and he's like one of the most famous atheists in the world. So I wanted to ask you about Tantra, because Tantra is kind of like, as I don't understand it as well as you do, but it's kind of like a meditative approach to sex. Is that right? Can you tell me about Tantra?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of different fields of Tantra, but let's just say in a modern perspective, Tantra is conscious sexuality. So that means that you are learning to be fully present in what is happening sexually, what's happening in your body, what's happening between you and your partner, what's happening with your partner. So being really, really conscious, and this brings in the mindfulness and because you kind of get yourself into these breathing meditations with your partner. The idea is to get into a place where you really become one unit. You become a team. You work together so that you start with breathing techniques in tantra, which brings in the mindfulness, brings in the presence and meditation, and you start to feel the breath of your partner. Really feel it, feel the intakes, the outtakes, and you go into that. So then it just evolves from there. So you're opening up all your senses. You're slowing down. You're slowing way, way down. Tantra is a slow movement of connection and sexuality. So the typical way of people approaching sex is in a very quick manner. They're all heated up, they're excited, they maybe have an erection. Let's go, let's do it. Boom, 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 done. Uh, and someone's not that satisfied usually. Usually the female-bodied individual, and even the male-bodied individual is not either, because they haven't really. And this is the kind of clients I get. They haven't really got into a deepness, into a really deep connection with each other, into a presence with each other. So I like to incorporate aspects of Tantra because it's about being very conscious about what you're doing, what you're feeling, what you're sensing. And yes, like you say, mindfulness is part of that as well, because you want to be there. You're not thinking about the groceries, you're not thinking about what you should do, how you should do it, which way, oh, maybe I should have worn that. Oh, I look shitty. I should have been, like, getting out of your head and getting into your body. So part of this is also about embodiment.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I've seen some like documentary stuff about Tantra. I've never tried it. But I have done mindfulness meditation, and I always kind of thought, when people talk about meditation, it sometimes they kind of think of not being in their own body, but really mindfulness meditation is all about being exactly where you are and completely like trying to experience exactly where you are in the moment.
Mhm.
And that totally makes sense for why some people might not be having great sex, is that they're not really 100% in the moment. So how do you kind of approach that? How do you make how do you incorporate, because at least for my own experiences with mindfulness meditation, you kind of want to be quiet, and it's really hard to you're really not supposed to be thinking about other people when you're doing mindfulness meditation. So how do you kind of incorporate that into a sexual experience?
Well, there's lots of different techniques around mindfulness. So it is taking that part of presence. Okay, so you're first of all, it's becoming present in your own body. So being
Mm-hmm.
able to, and I start with breathing, because most people don't know how to breathe in a deep manner. They're breathing from like the chest up, and the rest of the body's not really getting much breath. And so where's the sexual energy? Where am I going to use the word energy? Where's the
Yeah, I don't
sexual?
know. Kelly's rolling over right now.
Oh yeah,
That's
I
okay.
gotta work.
We'll let it slide, Lianna. We'll let it slide.
So where is the breath is not really fully getting into your sexual organs, right? It's not really fully expanding your sexual organs. We're kind of, and people are in that place when they're having sex too, and so that's why guys ejaculate very quickly, because they're not allowing not allowing the breath to move through their body. They're not. Yeah, so really, like, focusing on the breath is the first thing that I do with people. Get people breathing in a deeper manner, so that breath is moving through their entire body. Because when you start to breathe into your body, you start to feel your body. You start to come in contact with your body. And then when you come in contact with your body, and you bring the energy. I'm gonna use energy. Fuck it. Okay, you bring, you bring the
You're just like Kelly's not on the line anymore. Just like just
So you can then connect to feelings, desires, things. You can connect to that. If you're all heady in your breathing, you can't connect, and you need to connect to those desires in order to start to flow in a sexual manner, right?
That
To start yeah. Does that make sense to you?
yeah, that definitely clicks for me again in my own experience with mindfulness meditation. I feel like taking some time to just sort of scan through the body and say, hey, what's going on down there? Am I feeling pain? Am I feeling discomfort? Am I actually even comfortable, or am I just still? And that sort of mental check-in, that goes along with the breathing during sex makes a lot of sense for being like, am I enjoying this? If this how is the other person responding? That that makes sense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
people just go, and this is one main element that I talk a lot about. People just go way too fast. They just go way too fast. And yes, it's fun to have quick sex sometimes and just, have a quickie, as we say. But if you really want to experience your partner's body, if you want to go into deeper levels of orgasmic state, you have to slow down. You have to really feel your own body. You have to feel your partners. It's like it's a dance, it's a sexual dance that needs time to build. The energy needs time to build, right? It's like, building a fire. You got to keep putting the wood on and then put a bigger piece on. It's a gradual process. So a lot of my work with people, especially when people first come to me, we got to first get them breathing and then get them slowing down.
As a man who's with another man, I can definitely say that we appreciate the quickie, but every now and then it's also nice to have a marathon as well. And
Yeah.
and you're right, though, the orgasm is more intense when it's delayed and when you're more into it. And sometimes you're just fucking and sometimes you're making love. There's a definite difference there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can't really go into deeper orgasmic states if you don't slow down and take your time. Especially for the female bodied individual, you have many, many layers of orgasm that you can experience. And that takes time. Sex is not linear. So it's going to take some heated moments, and then you're going to come back, and then you're going to build it up again, and then you're going to come down, and then you're going to build it up again, and then you're going to go. It could take hours of this long, beautiful journey that you go on together. But you have to be able to connect with your body and be able to slow down and just really go into this dimension of pleasure, right?
Hmm. And it takes trust too, and you talk a lot about that
Yeah.
in your writings. So I feel like we've already kind of talked about the energy thing a little bit,
Yeah.
and we talked a little bit about out of body experiences.
Yeah.
We are kind of short for time, so I want to talk about Reiki healing, and I also want to talk about past life regression. I don't know that we have time for both, so which would you rather talk about, Lianna?
Well,
Which do you use more often in your practice? Maybe that's an easier
I
question.
probably use past life regression more than Reiki. Yeah. I
Okay.
probably use that more. And again, I use this with people that are open to the idea, open to the concept. I
Hmm.
also consider past lives existing all in this reality as well. So when I say when you go back into your childhood, I look at that as going into a past life of yours, because you are essentially a completely different person now. So
Right. Age regression is definitely different, and it's approached different clinically than is past life regression, because there's evidence that age regression has benefits, and I
Yeah.
don't know that there's evidence that past life regression does. And in fact, I happen to know there is evidence that it can be damaging.
Right. Yeah, that's what you're
For the
saying.
subject. Yeah. So
I haven't read anything about the fact that it might be damaging. I'd be kind of interested to see why somebody would, or where that evidence was that proved that it was damaging. I will go into more of a past life regression if the person is open to it, and if we feel that we but unable to find where the blockages exist in this present reality or in any kind of age regression, right? So then we think, okay, well, maybe there's something that is beyond that, some other life of yours, some other part of who you are that you've brought to this existence. Let's examine and see if there's that possibility. I don't have a lot of clients that I deal with in past life regression, because I generally find that people there's enough blockages to locate in this reality
Yeah.
that we can.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
we
We got enough
work
problems with this
on.
Yeah,
life.
we got
You don't
enough
need-
baggage here.
There's so many traumas that come up around sexuality. There's so many taboos that people are holding on to, and beliefs that have just locking them into being unable to move forward in their sexual life. So even those small those places, we I really focus on those, and we unlock those, and we find these places, and then they are able to like move forward and open themselves up. And this reality is a long period of time, and people gather up all sorts of baggage, right, through their lives. And I just feel like there's a lot of unraveling there. When it's going into past life, then it's somebody who's really done a lot of work, and they want to go into something that's bigger and that's beyond that. And so we go into sort of a meditative state, and go and try to find something that they feel, they sense that's bigger than them, that's something that's beyond anything that they've found in this reality, something that they sense. It's sort of like a sense that we go into, and okay, let's examine where this thread goes. I kind of look at like threads, right? So where does that thread lead you? You've looked everywhere here. Well, where is that? Well, they feel this or they feel that. So we just kind of go into the thread of it and see if we can locate something that could potentially help unlock or release some kind of trauma or something that's been frozen in that place.
Yeah, see, the issue that I have with past life regression is that, for one, you're assuming that the person has a past life before you even start the process, and then while that person is in an impaired mental state, I was watching one of the more storied practitioners of past life regression, Brian Weiss. Do you know? Have you ever seen him?
Yeah.
He's been on Oprah and whatnot. And watching him interview these people that he's hypnotized, his whole line of questioning is extremely suspect. He'll ask them leading questions. He'll ask them to go down. Now we're going to go back before you were born. We're going to go back to your past life. So right there, he's planting that idea in that person that they had a past life. And then he's asking them leading questions. How do you feel? Tell me about your trauma. Again, implying that there is trauma. So what happens is that people who may not necessarily have had a traumatic memory are having one crafted in their subconscious where it was not before. By asking these leading questions. And that it strikes me as incredibly unethical, especially when, as you say, there are plenty of problems in the here and now that you could be helping them out with. There's enough things that you could help people with without implanting false memories. And in a study done by, this is the study by Nicholas Spanos, who did a series of studies at Carleton University and determined that the majority of the time, these people came out worse than before. This isn't age regression therapy. This is past life regression therapy.
Right.
And a paper published in the Journal of Medical Ethics from a panel of professional psychologists did determine, or at least it's their professional opinion, that past life regression is indeed unethical. And I have to say, I agree with them. There's a lot of potential for harm there.
I would also say it also occurs to me, sort of piggybacking off of what you said earlier about, people have plenty of stuff going on in their own lives in the here and now. Some people have repressed memories, and is it possible that wherever their blockage exists in their life, but it's not something that they can consciously point to? Because I realized just the other day, like, holy shit, I have some repressed memories, because I was talking to a friend about how one of my coworkers saw me have a panic attack at work because a customer was yelling at me. And I told her, yeah, my dad yelled at me as a kid. And then I thought about it and I realized I could not remember what his voice sounded like when he yelled. Like, I could not remember a single instance of that happening, even though I knew it happened. I was like, oh, I guess I repressed that. I guess that's just kind of gone from my brain now.
Yeah.
And that's the common trauma response. So I guess I'm wondering how you can rule that out as a possibility to jump from, well, maybe you just don't remember the thing that got you all messed up, to say, well, maybe the messed up thing happened in an entirely different life that I'm not even sure actually happened,
Yeah, I mean, I personally would not lead somebody into it. I'm not going to lead them into it. I want them to lead me. If they lead me somewhere, now I don't know what I can't tell you exactly their entire life. I don't know their life. So it could be places from something that happened within their life and they've repressed it, and it comes up. We rewrite our history all the time, because as we change our beliefs, things from our past actually change too. So things might come up that sound like they could be from, sometimes they sound like they're not from this reality, and it's okay. Well, let's just go there and see what you feel, what's happening, what's going on. Let's look at this. Not trying to encourage a direction, but instead, like, let it to unfold and see what happens.
But how do you determine that a trauma isn't from this reality? Is there a process that you have? Like, what is there a series of triggers? Like, what might induce you to take that? Because I understand you're saying you let them lead you, but you are a sex coach and counselor, so implicit there is some form of leadership or direction, right? That's what a coach does. So what might make you? How do you determine that a trauma is from a past life and not from this one?
Well, I mean, they might say. I'll just think of an example. Somebody said that they were fighting with guns. They were in a they were talking about things that didn't exist that seemed to not exist in their reality, like in their lifetime. They were talking about something that was far more historical, right? So, and they had this feeling, this connection to that. And so that's the only indication. It's just that they have a specific kind of feeling that this is where they are, or they have a premonition of it. Now, whether they are actually there, it feels as if they are. They feel as if they are there. It could be that they are that it's something that's come out from reading something and they've connected it to that somehow. There's a lot of different ways that you can explain it. But I don't try to judge it. I don't try to judge it. So I say, okay, well, let's see what this is about. Let's go in a little bit and see if we can find something to hold on to for you. What can you feel? What can you see? Okay. And let's see if there's something there and if somebody is pointing at something specifically, then that particular thing is having an effect on them. Right. You don't have to dig very deeply. If somebody, even within this reality, If people just tend to, it unwinds very quickly because they're really
Mm-hmm.
connected to them in a very strong manner. And how they remember it can be very different. It could be different every time as well. I am not a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychologist. Sometimes I'll say, listen, this is something that it's beyond what I'm going to be dealing with. I will just kind of, I'm interested in past life regression. I'm interested in if somebody is talking about something that seems to be far from their reality right now. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's going to get to a place where I know that I just can't handle it, it's not part of what I do, I will refer them to somebody else.
I would really encourage you. I'll put we'll have in the show notes a link to the study that I was looking at, which Nicholas Spanos was probably the person who put the most actual professional, intellectual, scientific analysis into past life regression experiences. And what he found, working with these stories, is that often, in fact, every single time it's just a metaphor that the brain has created, right? Like the person might be seeing guns or gunfire, which is a metaphor for conflict, unresolved conflict, right? And you do dream analysis, so you know what I'm saying here, right?
Yeah.
And the things where the cases where people have come up, supposedly they're from 16th century England, right? But upon analysis, the language in the stories they're telling is not like, the language isn't actually how people in 16th century England taught. It's how they're portrayed on television. In one case, a lady was talking about the house that she was born in being made of wood in Ireland. And then upon actual investigation, there were no wooden houses in that village.
It's really wet.
Yeah, right.
It sounds like he very much wants to, get to the heart of this, debunk it as much as possible, find out.
Well,
really
no.
what this
See,
is
that's
about.
the thing, is that he's not trying to debunk it. And that's the thing with the scientific method, is that you don't have your conclusion before you go and hunt for evidence, before you do your experiment, right? Your conclusion is dictated by the results of your experiment. And with past life regression, you've already decided that it's there going into it. So it's a very dangerous thing to do, I think. Age regression, on the other hand, I did see some evidence for that. I'm not a psychologist either, but I can stand on the shoulders of giants and I can read published papers in scientific journals and see what professionals in the field think, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's more likely that our brain is a wet... Sorry, Rudy.
No, you're fine. All I was going to say is that we have one more call to get to. And I'm invested in this conversation.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say our brain is a wet machine capable of creating all sorts of illusions. We don't understand it very well.
I hate the phrase wet machine. I hate that you said the words wet machine.
It's Thursday. It's Thursday,
Rudy. It's also that we don't understand a lot yet very well.
This is true.
A lot, including past life possibilities. And, you're going to be able to find study. Okay, let's just move on. But I'd be interested to read. Send me the information. I like to read it. I'm interested.
I will.
I'm always interested. I'm interested in everybody's perspective, and there is research being done in all sorts of directions. And there's a lot we don't know for sure. A lot.
Let's get to your call, Rudy. Let's talk to somebody quick before we have to go. It's 6:23.
Yeah, I know. I cannot believe how fast the time has gone by.
This show flew by.
Debra wants to talk about how to keep things alive in a long-term relationship. So now we are finally back to sex again.
Oh, finally, for the last minute.
Let's do it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I actually saw your topic, and I was very fascinated by the fact I've been married for 20 years. The last 15 years of our marriage, we've been in a polyamorous relationship where I have a steady boyfriend, and my husband, not so steady. He just does his own thing. But I think that's one of the ways that before we made the decision to be polyamorous, we really had to, the key, I think, to taking your relationship to a whole nother level is open and honest communication, number one. Number two, you have to be honest about what you need sexually. If you are not honest and you keep thinking in the back of your mind, oh, I want to ask for this, but I'm ashamed because that was what I was brought up on or what have you, it does not work. And that's just my personal experience, but it is what I found to be true. It's like I have to be open and honest. And we do a whole lot of the taking the time to get to know each other, getting to my boyfriend. I have been friends with him for 25 years. And, 15 years ago, he became my boyfriend. And so we knew each other on a whole nother level. The attraction was there. The chemical response in our bodies was there. And we're like, let's just take this to a new level. And it really makes you appreciate the differences that you have, but you feel so completely loved, and I feel so completely supported because I have that type of a relationship. And I can totally relate with what you guys were saying about the energy or vibrations. It is, you walk into the room and I see my husband, I see my boyfriend, and my heart just goes pitter patter, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you're looking fine tonight, what have you. So, but yet, the thing, I guess, with us is that we also have a relationship outside of our sexuality or outside of sex. When I'm down and I'm having issues with my mental health, I can turn to either one of them, and they can actually turn to each other to help me through my crisis. And I think that if more people were open and honest about what they need completely, not just sexually, completely about what they need in their lives, we would have a heck of a lot more happy people in this world. We really would.
Well, damn, Deborah, I don't know why you called in to ask us. You've got that shit figured out. You've got it down.
You have got it down, and I talk a lot about.
I think the reason I called in is that I want to share that. I mean, I'm a 51-year-old woman. I've raised 3 children. I've done what have you. And in the last 15 years, I've decided that I need to be more honest about myself. And it was never this way before. It's only with this husband that I felt that I could be open and honest. And I think that if more, honestly, I feel like it's a little bit more with women than men, but I could be wrong. We're repressed, and I feel like we have to think one way, and we've been told we have to do this, that, and the other. But as a woman, I'm telling other women out there, girl, you have to find your happiness, and you have to find your inner wants and desires, because you can't expect your man to make everything okay for you. You have to be okay with yourself.
Absolutely. Beautiful point. Radical honesty. I talk a lot about radical honesty, and it is very, very difficult for people to allow themselves to be honest, but we just have to keep talking about it, keep opening up, telling stories like yours, because that's the only way that you're going to start to create the life that you want. You have to be really honest with what you do want. So beautiful work. Beautiful work. Very happy for you.
Absolutely. And one other thing is, like, the other thing that we do this other people have such an issue with is that we have 3 children. All 3 of the children know that we live a polyamorous lifestyle. All 3 of them do, because they're grown. They're adults. They can accept that mom and dad are actual sexual beings now. But, they accept it, and 2 of our children are polyamorous as well. So I think it's something that it's not that I taught them to be polyamorous, it's just that I gave them the opportunity to explore that avenue, and your parents are okay with it. So I think that's just such a big thing. You have to be open and honest all the way around, and you are going to produce some really, if you have children, you're going to get children that are on a better level, and they can accept themselves and love themselves.
Absolutely. Very nice.
I love that advice, Deborah.
That is so, like, your story is so encouraging. I'm glad that we got to take your call last. Like, this is it. Goals. Yes.
Yes. A beautiful wrap up conversation. Just gorgeous.
Yeah. Thank you so much for calling in, Deb.
I appreciate you guys giving me the time to, like, put a little voice out there. But I did want to let you know, is it Lianna or Lianna?
Lianna.
I'm a Reiki practitioner, so I get the whole vibration thing. I get all of that, what you're trying to describe. I couldn't have done it either. I don't know how to put energy and vibration. I don't know how to put that in any other terms either, but I get what you're saying. So, I just wanted to, put something out there so maybe somebody will hear it and go, hey, you know what? I need to be a little more open and honest with myself.
Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah,
thank you. Oh, sorry, God.
Well,
I just love that she talked about the honesty with the children too, because that is a big thing that I see where people are hiding it from their children. Their children that are sometimes even in their 20s, and they still are not telling their kids that they've had an open relationship or bisexual or whatever. And it's just,
can you imagine accidentally finding out that your parents are polyamorous?
They will, and maybe they know. They will, and maybe they know. And what children tend to do is internalize it, and you're just setting them up for disaster in the end. You want to be as honest as possible about these things. It's sex. There's nothing wrong with sex, right? There's nothing wrong with it.
No, you're absolutely 100% correct that if you are not being honest with your children, you are setting them up for disaster. Because it's a policy in our house. We even had roundtable dinner discussions about, your sexuality. You like girls, you like boys. I don't care who you like. The only reason I need to know who you like is so I can point out a cute person to you and go, hey, that person's cute. Maybe we should pursue that.
Just so you can do the annoying mom thing.
Yeah,
you got to do
right.
it.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to do, and that's what I've been able to do with all three of my children because we have that open and honest relationship.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that, Deborah. Good for you.
Yeah.
We need more parents like that. And it's amazing how when you're open with your children, how they do grow up more healthy. I have 3 children of my own, and 2 of them are bisexual, and one of them isn't quite there yet. But it's amazing you can raise these kids without the stigma that some of us grew up with.
Yeah.
And to see them never even have to deal with that is so it's so rewarding to know they're never going to know that.
Oh, absolutely. There's no reason for a stigma to be there. All I care about is that my children are happy. That's the only thing I care about. Are you happy with what your life is doing? And if you are, then I am 100% with you. If you're struggling, I'm 100% with you also, and I will help you through your struggle. There's no reason to struggle over your identity because it doesn't make a difference to me. You are who you are, and I love you.
Aw.
Wow.
Shout out to parents like Deb.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That was so sweet.
Yeah, you're the best. This was a great call. We have to wrap up the show, but I'm so glad you called in. Thank you so much, Deborah.
Well, thank you for having me. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye, Deborah.
Bye-bye.
Well, if there's a better way to wrap up the show, I can't think of it.
Yeah, just be like, oh, here's an ideal relationship. Here you go.
Yeah, beautiful.
Oh, that was beautiful. So, Lianna, where can people who want to learn more about you find you?
Well, I'm on a lot of social media. I have a website, first of all, liannawaldencoaching.com. This is a program that I am promoting right now for couples that want to get their sexual and intimate relationship up and running again. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I'm putting out videos every week. And so that's Lianna Walden on the YouTube as well. There you go.
There you go. That's how you find her. There you go. Of course, if you want to hear this show or any other ACA shows in podcast form, for some reason you're crazy and you don't want to see all our beautiful faces, I don't know why you'd want that, but if you want to do that, you can go to tiny.cc/AEN podcasts. We've got Secular Sexuality, we've got The Atheist Experience, we've got Talk Heathen, we've got The Nonprofits, we've got Truth Wanted, and all of the other shows that the ACA has put on in the past in podcast form. So definitely check that out. If you would like to hang out more with us or other people who watch the show, join the Facebook Secular Sexuality fan group. It's a fan-run group, but, we're all in there chit-chatting about stuff, running polls, and asking each other questions. So continue the conversation over at facebook.com/group/secularsexfg. And if you'd like to continue the conversation with us directly after the show, we're going to have our Discord after show on the ACA fan run Discord. That is tiny.cc/ACA Discord to find us there. And if for some reason you want to have very sexy merch and apparel, I don't know why you would want to do that. I mean, obviously you do. Everybody does. Everybody wants it. It's bit.ly/AEN merch. And get your sexy and secular on in clothing form or in mug form or, in pillow form if you want to get crazy. Who knows what those pillows are going to be used for? You don't know. And now, of course, we have to thank the fabulous, amazing, wonderful people that make this show possible. Let's go to the crew cam. Let's see those beautiful, amazing people.
Crew!
Oh, look at the beautiful, amazing people.
Whoop, whoop.
Crew. Oh, and if you're listening to the podcast, very unfortunately, you did not see Martin switched his camera over to show his cat. It was very cute. That's all we have for you today. Thank you to Lianna once again for coming on the show and for graciously taking our questions and giving us some answers. And of course, again, to the crew for making this even happen. And I hope everybody has a great night. And, I hope everybody gives themselves a big old orgasm. Or better yet, give somebody else one.